And I am Nicole Wakelin from Test Miles and Top Speed.
And I'm Perry Stern, doing freelance work for a number of places like US News, Capital One, JD Power, etc.
He is
And
our stand-in because Robbie now sounds like Sam did a few
yeah,
weeks ago.
or perhaps even worse.
Probably worse, yes.
Yeah, because he was rehearsing with his bands over the weekend, and went into rehearsal with a sore throat and did not turn out well. And they have a big show on Friday night, so
So
he's got
fingers
no voice
crossed.
right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully by
Ugh.
Friday he'll be able to sing again.
So
But
poor Robbie.
in the meantime, we
In
got
the
you,
meantime,
Perry.
No, added bonus for all
Yeah.
of us.
Well, and it's good because last week all three of us were in New York for the New York Auto Show,
we
and
were.
unlike most North American auto shows of late, uh, we actually there was actually a lot of stuff there. There was a bunch of new stuff.
This
It
it
So
was
was.
it was kind of cool because it didn't feel quite as frenetic as like old school auto shows when we just go from conference to conference to conference and never stop. But you did have stuff to see.
yeah,
I kind of think the biggest thing of the whole, I mean, that they pulled it off was Hyundai with their new concept where they told nobody anything, no pictures, no hints, no nothing. Even the people who were hosted by Hyundai were like, "Oh, I don't know." Like they didn't tell anybody anything. It was like you couldn't had no idea. So if you wanted to know when they revealed it, you literally had to show up for their conference.
Which is how it used to be. I mean, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'd go to the Detroit Auto Show and there'd be 50, 60 new cars debuted, and we wouldn't know any of them until the wraps came off, uh, which was a lot more work. But it's
Mm-hmm.
exciting. That was, you're right. It was almost like that was the star of the show, the fact that it was a surprise.
Right? That they actually, and one of my favorite things was we were all trying to guess what it was. Like everybody, what do you
Oh, I
think it
know.
is? Is it a truck? Is it an SUV? Is it a full size truck? Is it a mid size truck? Is it like nobody really knew? Nobody knew. And I loved that they were guessing by the journalists going because there were a couple of truck journalists
yeah.
that
Tim
went,
Tim
including
Esterdahl was
Tim
there.
Esterdahl
Yeah, I
from
did the
Pickup.
same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what is he? Pickup Truck Talk and SUV plus SUV pickup truck talk. I messed it up.
Yeah,
Pickup
pickup
Truck
plus
Talk.
SUV talk or something like that.
Yes. Anyway, he was there, and we all looked around like, "Oh, Tim's there. It's got to be a truck." They invited Tim. It was not a truck. It was an off-road SUV concept. So I'm like, "Oh, you
It was all
faked us
part of the
out."
distraction.
It was, and
Yeah.
they even kind of said like, "We sort of tried to really throw you guys off your game. It
Well, I mean,
worked."
even right up to the last second. Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't know.
Jose Munoz was there. He was doing the introductory part of the presentation. He was talking about kind of where Hyundai's business is right now and what's going on. And they put up this video, and he mentioned, we're doing a mid-size pickup truck. And so everybody, then immediately thought, because the night before, a bunch of us that were hosted by Hyundai, we were at a dinner at Genesis House, and I'd say it was probably about 50-50 between truck and off-roader.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he mentioned pickup truck, and everybody thought, oh, okay, he's going to show us a pickup truck. And then they pulled the curtain up on this thing, and it was an SUV. But we'll come back to that in a few minutes. That's what we call a teaser in the business.
Okay.
But we'll come back to what Hyundai actually showed us. In the meantime, Nicole, what have you been driving?
I've been driving, and I was saying this before the show. I'm so excited that I actually I'm holding it up because I'm so happy because I know you're doing video. That I actually have not quite a Monroney, but almost better because it's got like a picture and everything. I have, and I can read it. The
But
2026 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat Jailbreak All-Wheel Drive.
That's a lot.
That's a
but it's not
lot.
the right color of the one that you're driving, though.
No, the one that I'm driving, and well, you can't have everything. This one is bright blue. The one I have is sort of like a sparkly. It's not red. It's more like a burgundy. It's really pretty, but it does still have. I think this one has a whole black hood on it. Mine just has like the racing stripe that goes all the way across it. That's kind of cool. So
Because
this is
midsize SUVs need racing stripes.
right. Well, this one does.
Well, when you got 710 supercharged horsepower, you do.
Right? 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque. It's a 6.2 liter Hemi V8. It's stupid. It's stupid that they did this. It is ridiculous that they did this. This is a 3-row SUV with like room for your whole family, nice and comfy. It's absolutely the most ridiculous thing ever, and I love it. Like, it's just perfect that they did it. There's no logical reason why this should have been built. It's just somebody showed up and said, "You think we could do this?" And I'm like, "That's dumb. When do we start?" Like, it's brilliant. I love it. I am very glad that it's still around. I'm glad that, just a crazy, powerful Dodge vehicle is there. I know that the Durango is just aging something fierce, but I don't care. 710 horsepower, 645 pound-feet of torque, 3 rows of seating. I'll take it, just like it is. And it has the drive modes. I think there's 7 drive modes on this. 7 distinct drive modes. Thank you, handy dandy cheat sheet. Auto, sport, track, snow, tow, eco, and valet. And you want that valet so that your guy doesn't go cruising around having a good time while you're having dinner and trash your SUV. That's brilliant. But I drove it in auto and in sport, mostly sport. It is so obnoxiously, beautifully loud when you put it in sport. Even when you first start it, it just sounds fantastic. In fact, I went to take the picture. That's why you know what color I had, Sam. You must have seen the picture I put up today. I was planning on going, taking pictures and doing a couple of social media videos. I spent 45 minutes at the little park in Merrimack, New Hampshire, because everybody was coming. "Hey, nice car. Can I take a look? Hey, nice car." Everybody was there at the dog park. Everybody needed to see the car. So they know what it is. People recognize a little Hellcat on there, and it means something to people. It's really fun to drive. The power is ridiculous. The sound is ridiculous. It's comfortable. It has really heavily bolstered seats. And I was thinking, like, you want that if you were actually going to track the car, which I guess you could. I don't know who's going to do that. I would have find the guy who does and just be like, why? But you could. So it has really heavy bolstering on the seats, but it's not that kind of bolstering like you get in a short, low little sports car where it's so much so that when you sit down, you're like, thunk, like you can't get out. You have to like lean forward and then get out because you're like, like it's holding you in. It's kind of perfect for what it is. I really like this car. I've always liked the Durango. I think the one, thing is that it's starting to it hasn't been changed in forever, but they're still selling
It started
this thing.
production in 2010, the current generation.
2010.
That's kind of a Stellantis way to go. I mean, look at the 300C, the Charger, all of those were around
Right?
as long, and they were still good.
And they're still good. And the thing is, they're setting like sales records with this thing right now. It's doing so well. So I can see them saying, like, we don't really need to do other stuff. We're selling it like as fast as we can make it. Let's just have it go and do its thing. So
How's your fuel economy?
Well, I didn't even look. Oh my God. I'm not even looking because it's going to be, but
It
you
has
don't,
some. Not much, but it has some.
Yeah, it does go a certain number of miles per gallon. It's
Yes.
horrific.
It's not quite
Gallons
gallons
per
per
mile.
mile.
It's
the case may be.
horrifically
Yeah.
low. Yeah. Oh, wait, I have the official numbers. Oh my gosh. God. City highway combined is 12, 17, 13. So this might be an exceptionally expensive car to drive right now, where gas prices near me just crept over $4. I know that's cheap for a lot of people, but we don't see those kinds of gas prices. It just was $4.05 when I got home yesterday, and I was kind of bummed. Like, there we go, over $4. Top speed though, look at this, 180 miles an hour. That's for the guy who's going to track it. 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds. These are ridiculous numbers.
It's fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole thing. Can you imagine if your kids, and there's a launch control, you imagine you launch control with your kids in the back. Whee! They would have so much fun. I love this. Now, the problem is it is not an inexpensive vehicle. So the base price on this is $79,995. As equipped, the one I had, $95,740. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for an SUV. Now, granted, it truly is a performance SUV, but you're right up there in luxury car territory at $95,000. So I don't. But you got a Hellcat on the side of your door, and it says jailbreak on the like this sticker on the dashboard. So what more do you want for $95,000?
Jailbreak should be worth at least a couple thousand just to have the sticker.
At least that much, easily. So, and it is nice to drive. It's fun on the highway. It's fun on side roads. It handles really well. You put it in sport and it does tighten up. So even though it's a big vehicle, it doesn't feel super top heavy. It actually is a pleasant SUV to drive, even if you're just cruising along responsibly and not trying to be like, yeah, Hellcat. Yeah, so
You can
that's
do
the,
that.
you can.
Wow.
So I did enjoy it. I would buy it, but 95,000 is a little steep for my blood. But it's beautiful. I love it. Keep building weird stuff, Dodge.
What about you, Perry? Did you drive anything this week?
I did. I've got a Toyota Tundra, uh, four-wheel drive crew cab TRD Pro. So this is their, high performance off-road truck, designed to go, at good speeds when the road is not good, or basically when you don't have a road. Um, and I like it. It's somewhat subtle because it's this dark gray color, but it does have the big brake calipers, the red uh, tow hooks. Is it red tow hooks? I'm trying to remember now. Um,
I think
but
so.
it says, TRD Pro in big letters on the back of it, but it's still um, it's funny. It doesn't really look like it's raised up that high. Um, but it's got the off-road tires, it's got the off-road suspension, and the coolest thing in this truck are I guess they're called the isodynamic seats.
Oh, it
So
has those crazy seats.
it does. Both front seats have their own independent suspension. And so you can adjust. There's little switches in the back of the seat, and they look really cool. They've got these two like cross pieces that have little gauges on them, and you can actually change them from off-road to on-road. So when you're on the pavement, it's a little firmer. It doesn't move around as much. When you're off-road, you put it to off-road, and it absorbs all the bumps, and you can actually rock around in the seat, and it moves on its own. Uh, and so I've actually have it in off-road because I found that's actually more comfortable on any
Really?
road. So I've just kind of left it there. And the interesting thing is there's a little pump. You can actually change the pressure if you want. You can make it stiffer or make it looser. It's such a wild feature. I mean, it's not cheap. It's about $1,000 to add those
Is it
seats
worth
on.
$1,000, Perry?
Well, given the fact that the whole price of this truck is $82,000, $1,000 here and there is really not that much difference.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but I took it. There's, where I live, there's a lot of gravel roads that are now really bad shape after the winter. So I mean, potholes that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches deep, and they're big, and there's a lot of them. And I had taken a Bronco Sport out on some of my favorite roads a couple of weeks ago, and I thought over 25 miles an hour, I thought the whole thing was going to shake loose. I mean, it was really bad roads. And so I took the Tundra on the same roads, 55 miles an hour, and it just smooth as. So, I mean, it's amazing how well between the seats and the truck suspension, it is designed to handle roads like that. And so if you lived in a place like that, where, the roads are not paved and they're not good, I mean, having something like this could improve your life dramatically. Um, and it's comfortable inside. It has red leather interior. In fact, I thought this was quite amusing. Yesterday, I looked outside and there was a female cardinal sitting on top of the truck looking in the sunroof. I think it saw the red.
Got a little confused.
Apparently. But it's nice to drive actually on the freeway. It's surprisingly smooth and comfortable. It's got a ton of power. It's the hybrid, it's getting, I don't know, 14 or 15 miles per gallon right now, but a lot of that's been off-road, or at least off pavement. And it's pretty enjoyable to drive. I actually, like the hybrid system. I would have expected that it would be, even on the freeway, it still wasn't getting much over 17, 18 miles per gallon. The actual EPA numbers are 18 city, 20 highway, 19 combined. So I was about where it expects. Um, and granted, it's a big truck, and it's got off-road tires and all of that. But overall, good power, and really enjoyable to drive.
Yeah, I've never gotten over 18 with any of the current Tundras or Sequoias with the hybrid system. It's not a particularly efficient powertrain, especially when you compare it to the F-150 hybrid, which you own one of those. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, a typical just city driving, we get between 23 and 24 miles per gallon in the
Wow.
F-150 hybrid.
Yeah.
And and yeah, I've noticed, just in the little bit of time I drove the Toyota, um, it doesn't drive on electric near as much as the F-150 does. I mean, the F-150, you can actually cruise through town and it'll just sit there with 0 RPMs. Where, when I lift off the throttle on the Toyota, it will drop down to shut off the engine. But you breathe on the throttle, the engine's back on again.
Yeah, the Tundra is a lot heavier than the F-150 too. I think I seem to recall it's about like 600 or 700 pounds heavier.
Oh,
It might even be more than that.
That would make a difference.
yes, it
Yeah,
would.
trying to find it here. Yeah, I mean it's significantly heavier, which I'm sure contributes to the fuel economy difference. Even though, they make roughly, pretty close to the same power and torque, but they're just, one is just significantly more efficient than the other. So, if you, obviously we know which choice you made when it came to buying a truck. But if
But
you
I
were
have
going to buy
different
one,
choices.
yeah, I mean, if you were going to buy one today, I mean, would you go for a Tundra or an F-150?
I like that. I mean, for for what I do, for towing and for just driving as a daily driver, F-150, no question.
Yeah,
Because they're both very comfortable inside. They both have all the advanced safety features. They're very comparable, but I think that the hybrid system in the F-150 is better. The other thing is that, which I use in the F-150, is it has a 7.2 kilowatt generator built in, which still shocks me that no one else has done what Ford did. And I can run, 30 amps to my travel trailer and run air conditioning anywhere with my truck. So it's an amazing game changer that no one seems to remember or take advantage of, which always surprises me. But anyway, yeah, I would
well,
take the app Ford.
yeah, I mean, the Tundra is the only other hybrid full size pickup truck that's available right now. GM does do that on their electric trucks, but those sell
Right.
in very small numbers.
Mm.
Um, but I suspect that probably when the next generation GM trucks come out, I think probably later this year they're going to be introduced.
So I've heard.
Those they will probably add a feature like that on those trucks, I would guess.
It certainly makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Um, well, anything else on the Tundra before we move on?
No, I think it is pricey. Like I said, $82,000 for a full size truck. But you know, everything's pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's cheap anymore? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
All right. Well, I had the Volkswagen Jetta GLI Autobahn edition,
Mm,
which was finished in a what do they call it, Monterey Blue. And when my wife came home and she saw this thing in the driveway, she said, "Man, that car is so boring looking."
Oh gosh. She's not
Uh,
wrong.
and as a former Jetta driver, you know, she has a right to her opinion. And to be honest, it's not a particularly exciting looking car, although you do get that nice slash of red in the front fascia there on the GLI, under the around the grill, so that gives it a touch of something. But it's not an exciting car to look at, but it is actually quite pleasant to drive. So the Jetta GLI is basically a four-door sedan version of the GTI of the Golf GTI. So if you are one of those people that for some reason thinks that having a trunk is better than having a hatchback, I don't know what's wrong with you, but VW's got you covered on both fronts. So you can get the Jetta GLI or the Golf GTI. In the GLI, it's got the 2-liter EA888 four-cylinder turbo engine, which is the same engine that Volkswagen currently uses on almost everything that they sell in North America. So it's 228 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque, which is actually pretty good. It's more than enough for this car. It's also paired. You can get it with a six-speed manual transmission. Unfortunately, the one I had the seven-speed DSG dual clutch automatic, which actually most of the time is fine. The one and when we had our Jetta TDI wagon, we had a DSG gearbox in there as well, but it was a six-speed. The seven-speed doesn't behave significantly differently, but the one thing that you will notice the most is just accelerating off the line. You sometimes get some lag, before the clutches engage and it really kicks in, and so you step on the accelerator, and this is particularly noteworthy when you go to one of these from an EV. And we own an EV, and when you get into an EV and you step on the accelerator, it just goes immediately. There's no waiting around, and with a regular automatic transmission, a torque converter automatic transmission, you get a slight bit of lag, but not much. Modern automatics are pretty good about that. They're pretty responsive. And when you get into a dual clutch gearbox, it's like, okay, you step on it, and
Step on it, go get some coffee and come back.
yeah, it's most problematic, when you're, for example, trying to make a left turn out of your neighborhood onto a busy street, and you're trying to time it right because you know that there's going to be some lag there, and you want to be able to get out there before the cars coming at you from the left are going to get to where you are, and before the cars coming, from the right get to where you are. You want to try and get that gap. That can be a little problematic to time just right. But other than that, the gearbox works fine. It shifts smoothly, it shifts quickly. The engine's nice. It's got plenty of power, plenty of performance. No real complaints with that. The seats are quite comfortable. I've always liked VW seats. They've always been pretty good. This one has most of the options on it. It's it still has some of the touch control stuff that VW put on a lot of their recent vehicles, like for the temperature controls. You got to drag your finger along the slider on the dashboard, which is a bit annoying. But there is a volume, a rotary volume control, so that's good.
Yay.
It's got Android Auto and CarPlay support, all the usual stuff. The rear seat is roomy enough as well for adults, so I can easily fit behind myself in the rear seat. It's generally quite a pleasant car to drive. The handling, the ride is good. So the chassis dynamics of both the GLI and the GTI, it's a fun car to drive once you get it off the line, once you get it moving. The one that I had, as I said, was pretty loaded. There's actually no options on this thing. So for the Autobahn edition, that's the top of the line model. The total price on the Monroney, $35,670, which is quite a bit, I think, for a Jetta.
You can get 3 of those for the price of a Durango Hellcat.
That's true.
You could. Worth noting.
Everything is relative.
Yeah. You guys want to take a guess at the destination charge on this one?
I'm gonna go $12.95.
I'm thinking 1,500.
Nicole, you were off by just $20. It was $12.75.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
woohoo,
nice guess.
go me.
The GLI with the DSG transmission is rated at 26 city, 35 highway, 29 combined.
Wow.
I was averaging about 27 with it. Mostly, I think probably because every time I went to accelerate, I probably gave it more gas than it should have gotten, just because I was trying to get it to get up and go. But other than that, it's a very nice car to drive. Like I say, not exciting in the least to look at, but very nice to drive. So if you want a GTI with a trunk, VW's got you covered.
I actually just pulled it up to see when you were talking about the pictures or what not being very exciting, And it is really just the red stripe that's the only personality in the whole thing. But on the one that I happened to pull up, it was black with the red stripe. And for all the world, the little red piece on the bottom reminds me of when you see someone driving like a Charger and they still have the little protectors
Oh,
on the.
I
yeah.
forgot to take them off.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that doesn't give me the right vibe. That's literally what I thought when I looked at it.
Yeah, and on the Autobahn, you get the black wheels and everything, so it really makes it even more subtle to look at.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of little splashes of red inside the cabin as well. On the steering wheel, there's a little splash of red on the bottom spoke of the steering wheel. There's a little red surround on the shift lever. You get some red contrasting stitching on the seats. So inside there's a little bit of some interesting stuff, but again, just not. I think it's good, if what you want is a car that you can drive fairly swiftly, and not get noticed by, say, law enforcement officials, things like that.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah. So that's the Jetta. All right, let's talk about some of the stuff we saw in New York. So let's start with that Hyundai concept. So, ahead of the show, I sent a note to one of the folks at Hyundai, because I was just trying to figure out, where I could write something about this, just to figure out if there was anything green associated with this car. And I said, okay, you told us, nothing under embargo. Can you at least say if there's any like hybrid component or anything to it? Nope. We're going totally old school on this, not telling you anything. And so, what they showed us was a big four-wheel drive off-road SUV concept. Roughly, it seems like it's roughly about the size of a Ford Bronco Raptor. Big brawny fenders on it and everything. And a couple of days before the show, they released a teaser image that was just a big boulder hanging in the air.
I don't even know if that would qualify as a teaser image.
Whatever.
It was so weird. It's just like
it
floating
said-
boulder.
It said
Okay.
we're announcing something on Wednesday, and here's a rock to look at. But it teased the name because it's
I guess
called the
that's true.
Boulder, the Hyundai Boulder.
And it did tease the name technically.
Of course, I saw it and I thought it was a rock. So
I know. I'm like, what is this
I
big
never-
rock?
Boulder didn't occur to me till after I saw the Boulder concept.
That is one of those like, oh, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
So what do you think of the Boulder?
I thought it was really great. I thought it looked fantastic. I mean, it's a concept. So at this moment, they're not building it. They haven't confirmed they're building it.
They're gonna
They-
build it.
I think so too.
I
But
think
but talking to them, we did an interview with the designer Sang Yup Lee. I think I'm saying his name.
Sang-Yup Lee, yeah.
Sang Yup Lee correctly. He was so enthusiastic about it, and he had, he was really positive about it. He said, "Well, a lot of it's going to depend on what people think about it." And everybody thought it looked pretty cool. I didn't really hear anybody saying they didn't like the look of it. My favorite part of the entire thing was when he got really excited talking about it. Designers get in like, okay, look at this little curve and look at this little line and look at this little flat sheet metal. And he's like, come around here. And we're like at a rear 3/4, which is like on the corner of a car for people who don't know what that means. Like kind of looking at the taillights. He's like, if you come up to the top here, see how it's rounded and it kind of comes down? It's like a 1950s refrigerator. I was like, huh.
Is that really what you want in a car?
I can see that, but now once he said that, I think, and the handles are sort of the dual handles for the tailgate are sort of hidden into it. So again, he's like, it was like that refrigerator, and I thought, okay, I can just see you trying to pitch this. I'm going to make this off-road SUV. It's going to look like a fridge. Everyone going, what?
Well, and it is, all finished,
It's a retro
in
fridge.
brushed
It's
metal.
a retro fridge.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not painted, so it's just brushed metal. So it does kind of have that stainless steel refrigerator feel to it.
Right?
And the handles as well. I mean, the side handles, it's like a bar that you grab. Like you could see a big door handle on a fridge, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, now I can't unsee it looking like a fridge.
You're welcome.
But I mean, I think I love the big wheels on it. The short overhangs. It looks like it would be able to go anywhere if it actually had
Yeah,
an
it's
engine
on
in it,
37-inch wheels and tires.
Right.
So.
But the very first thing I thought when I saw it though was the original Bronco concept from early 2000s. It's like 2003 or four, and because that was also silver, almost the same color, and the grills are different but the same basic shape. But it was funny because
Similar
when
vibe to
Bronco,
it.
it was, and when Ford showed that, it's like, oh, we're going to build the Bronco, and it was how many years later? 20 years,
Uh,
Yeah.
almost
yeah,
20 years
it was
later that they
about
actually
almost
built it.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully Hyundai won't take 20 years to build a production version of this.
I feel like it's going to be sooner than that.
Well,
Yeah, well,
Hyundai did announce that they're gonna actually Jose Munoz, the CEO, said by 2030 Hyundai is going to release 30 or 36 new or updated vehicles in North America. So I
yeah,
mean that's a lot more vehicles than they have in the lineup right now. And some of that is going to be variations, like N models and things like that. But we know that they're doing a midsize pickup, which is coming probably around 28, 29, and which means that they're tooling up for a body on frame assembly line. And this is going to be based, I think this is going to be based on the same platform as that pickup. Um, you know, they didn't tell us anything about powertrain or anything. As far as we know, the vehicle we saw does not even have a powertrain. Uh, but looking underneath, you could see it had a solid rear axle. It was body on frame. It's some interesting design details to this thing too. Like they mentioned, I forget exactly. I think like softened pixels, and like when you look at the tail lights, like in the Ionics and some of the other models, we've seen this pixel lighting theme with these little tiny pixels, these arrays of little pixels making up the lights. On this one, it's kind of like it's kind of like the Duplo of pixels, where you've got big blocky pixels for the tail lights and for the headlights, which I thought was really cool. And then on the tailgate, you on both sides of the tailgate, there's theoretically a handle there. I don't know if there actually is on this particular concept.
There
but it says
was
pull.
there was a hand actually you could fit because when I was talking to him, he
Okay.
moved the stanchions and let us actually get up close. And there is a handle like when you slide your hand back there, it's probably like I don't know 2 or 3 inches behind there that your hand goes that you could pull the handle out. We didn't open it, but yeah, there are little handles that are hidden in there.
But so you've got that on both sides, which means they've got
which is
some
really
sort of
cool.
mechanism
Yeah,
so it can hinge either to the left or to the right. Presumably depending on where you are. So I guess if you're in a city, parked at the curb, you want to open it up to the left, you can do that, or if you're somewhere else, you want to open it up to the right, you can do that as well. And then you've got the Safari windows above the side doors, kind of like on a older Land Rover Discovery, so that's kind of a neat touch. So a lot of interesting design details on this thing.
I like the
Yeah.
tow hooks integrated into the bumper too, both front and
Yeah,
back. They almost looks like the bumper was put on and then they strapped it in with those tow hooks.
yeah,
It just looks solid. If they were to come out with something that looks exactly like that, I don't think it would have any trouble selling it.
yeah. I
No.
mean, it looks like it's just carved out of a giant block of aluminum.
It looks
Yeah,
really cool. And if the pricing is cheaper than like what you get for comparable other cars, SUVs, that's going to make a
typically.
huge difference too. Hyundai does a good job with their pricing. So, and they have a really good warranty. So it could give them some really strong competition to the other guys.
Yeah, I could see them. I wouldn't be surprised if they did this and put an E-Rev drivetrain in it. Had it with a
Yeah,
gas powertrain, and then also with an E-Rev as an option. And I think that that would be really interesting because a vehicle like this, no matter what gas powertrain you put in it, not going to get great fuel economy. But
Yeah.
if
no.
you made it an E-Rev, it could actually be pretty cool.
It
Yeah.
is interesting. I just looking at it, there is no fuel filler or port of any kind on either side of the car.
Yeah,
It's a
I
concept,
just noticed.
Harry.
I had,
The
I
the
know,
the
but I
fuel
just
The fuel is also a concept at this point.
Well, I thought it was also interesting that they gave it a rear differential, um, but not a front one. Um, and so, I know it's all fake and, it's just the design study anyway, but it just seemed odd that this design study technically is rear wheel drive.
Well, it's probably front wheel drive, or sorry, I should say four wheel drive, but with an independent front suspension. So the rear differential is probably mounted up a little bit higher to give it some more ground clearance.
Okay, I'll give you that.
All right.
Either that or the electric motor is powering the front wheels and the
That's also a
Castrol's driving the rear
possibility.
wheels.
That's a
You know,
possibility too.
Yeah,
so many options when it's a concept vehicle.
So many possibilities.
anything is
But
possible. All right, so let's move on. Hyundai's corporate cousins at Kia had a press conference, and they showed two new vehicles, both of which have been sort of seen before, but this is the first time they've been seen in North America, and they're both coming to the U.S. market. So first up was the new 2027 Seltos, the second generation Seltos. Um, and what did you what did you think of the Seltos?
Like I didn't realize, so I wasn't there
it's
when
like a
they showed it officially, and I didn't realize it was a Seltos when I walked by it. It looks so different in the front. Like, what is that? I'm like, that's the Seltos? Like they made it look so different. It doesn't even remotely resemble what it was before.
it's like a baby Telluride.
It's like a baby
Yeah,
Telluride.
very
That's
very
why I
much
was
so.
Yeah,
confused. I'm like, what is
yeah.
this? This is not a Telluride. This is too small. What am I looking at?
It's kind of the design is kind of a mix of Telluride and EV9. Because when the teaser image that they showed the week before the show was a front view, straight on front view, and it just had the running lamps on it. It's got the two vertical running lamps like the Telluride, the new Telluride has. But then when you look at it from the side is much more EV9. Some creases in the bodywork and like the same sort of roof line as the EV9, but obviously a lot smaller. And it's slightly larger. It's about 2.5 inches longer than the current generation Seltos. Um, but it's still a fairly compact crossover, and it's gonna have two gas powertrains, the same ones that they have today with the 2 liter naturally aspirated and the 1.6 liter turbo. And then later in the year, they're going to launch a hybrid version as well. So it'll be the first time that there's a hybrid version of the Seltos.
That'll
Which
be
is
neat
cool. I
too.
mean, I think, and that will be all-wheel drive. They said it's the first electric all-wheel drive system they've ever offered,
Yeah,
with the hybrid.
first one with a rear e-axle.
Right,
So
right,
they've had hybrids, but with a mechanical drive shaft driving the rear wheel.
right. So this will be just the drive motor, just the motors driving the rear wheels, I guess,
Yeah,
but front wheels, rear
yeah. Same
wheels.
same way Toyota does it on the Rav4.
Right, right. But I thought it was interesting that the tail lights almost look a little K4.
Mm.
That verticals, it's almost like,
Yeah,
at night I could see them being almost the same.
yeah.
Um,
There's
but
there's elements of a bunch of different current Kia models in there.
but I thought the most interesting thing was the headlights are completely integrated into the grill. In fact, I tried to get them turn them on just so I could even see where they come through. But if you get close, it's like the grill looks like it goes all the way to the edges, except that the headlights are built into it,
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of a cool feature. Uh, and then interior, it's like the rest of the newer models, like the Telluride, where it gets rid of the dual purpose display, which has always driven me crazy, where you have to toggle between vent and audio, and I hate that.
I hate
So
it
that's
too.
gone. That's gone. In fact, the Kia folks, I think, weren't big fans of it either, at least
no.
the US folks. Um, and so, yeah, I think that it's going to be, it's really has a nice interior. I think it's going to do well.
Yeah, there's again, a lot of elements that you find in other current generation Kias. So you get the same basic display setup that you get in the EV9 and in the Telluride, and I think uh, the K4 as well, where
K4
you've
has it,
got
yeah.
a single sheet of glass. There's two 12.3-inch displays, and then you got that little 5-inch display in between for some of the climate control stuff that is completely hidden behind the steering wheel.
Yes, that does bug me. Uh, I mean, I granted it's not something you have to access or do anything with much, but it still bugs me that you can't see it.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway,
And yeah, but then you do at least get physical controls for temperature and fan speed, and then some other stuff, and the little volume roller in the middle of the dash there, and of course manual vents, always a good thing.
Yay.
I sat in the back seat. I set the driver's seat for my position, and then I got in the back seat, and I had plenty of room back there. I had several inches of knee room, had enough headroom in the back. There's plenty of cargo space in the back. It looks like, so I think this would be a very practical vehicle. Starting price will probably be similar to where the current Seltos is around. I think the current Seltos starts just under 25 grand. So it'll probably be around 25, 26 grand to start. The hybrid will probably run, I'm guessing, low 30s.
it makes sense.
Yeah,
It'll be a good price. People will be
yeah,
happy about it. They finally are
Yeah,
paying attention to it. They're not. It's not the stepchild no one's looking at.
yeah, and it's
exactly.
a sharp looking little crossover.
And it fits nicely with the lineup, just with the styling and everything. So
And then next to that was the EV3, which I think we saw did they have the EV3 at the show last year? I know they talked
I
about
thought
it.
I
I
didn't.
think
I thought it was an EV4 last year that they
well, they had an
but
EV4, but I think they also had an EV3 there.
Oh, I
Or
don't
maybe
remember
I'm
that from last year, but
I
can't
don't
that's
remember.
think I'd seen it
possible.
before. But
I know they talked last last year they talked about the plan was to launch the EV4. It was supposed to launch in the fall of 2025, and then the EV3 was supposed to come out in the first half of 2026. Well, the EV4 has been canceled for the North American or for the U.S. market. You can actually buy the EV4 in Canada and in Mexico, but you can't get it in the U.S. because we can't have nice things. Um, but the EV3, they kept the EV3 because it's more crossover type body. But it's looking at the dimensions of it, it's slightly smaller than the Seltos. It's about 3 inches, 2.5 inches shorter than the Seltos, and it sits a little bit lower. But it's got that kind of crossover-ish shape to it, and it's built on a 400-volt version of the eGMP architecture, so it doesn't charge quite as fast as like an EV6 or EV9, but still, it'll do 10 to 80% in about 25 to 30 minutes,
yeah, so still
which is
reasonably quick.
yeah. And this one is coming out later this year. They're not talking pricing yet, but when I talked to a couple of people from Kia, about what their targets are, what are they benchmarking for this thing, they specifically talked about Bolt and Leaf, which both start at $30,000,
And that makes
and
sense.
the EV3 is going to be available with two battery sizes. There's a 54 kilowatt hour battery and a 74 or 75 kilowatt hour battery. The smaller battery is supposed to give about 220 miles of range, and the larger battery will give up to 320 miles of range. And front wheel drive or all wheel drive, I think it's about 288-ish horsepower with all wheel drive, about 200 horsepower with front drive. Um, I like the look of this thing. I think it's pretty cool.
It's a
I
nice
think,
size.
yeah.
And with I guess it's the GT that gets 288 horsepower with the sport tune suspension,
Yeah,
and it could be a pretty entertaining little vehicle to drive.
yeah. And I think I believe that this is going to replace the Nero in the lineup. I think the Nero is going to go away because it's not a huge seller, and I think this is going to replace that.
And that makes sense because I think otherwise they would be competing against each other anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're too close together.
All right. another all new vehicle that debuted at the auto show last week was the 2027 Volkswagen Atlas. It's the second generation of the Atlas. Um, and what do you think about this one?
It's more exciting than the Jetta.
There's a rousing endorsement.
I mean,
I mean,
I think.
they
Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, I mean, they made it a little more modern looking, but it still looks like an Atlas. It's never been super exciting, but I don't know that that was their goal.
No, I mean they added some neat stuff. I mean, it definitely looks like you said the style update is cool. It looks better than it did. It has nice, like the lighting is fabulous inside and out. I really like how they did that. It's got some neat like stuff along the along the doors, like the way they've done the lights. They've gotten really into the lighting, but and they added some more features to it compared to what they had before. They added the infotainment is upgraded. There's Napa leather. There's seats. Like they've added all the bells and whistles to make it better and to make it more appealing. It's still not like this super compelling vehicle to me though, but it never really has been. I think it's nice steps forward, but I don't like. I'm like wow. Like I don't know. I don't know. What
And
about
that
you,
was kind of,
Sam? Oh, or Perry?
I
Either
was
one
just
of
gonna say,
you.
I mean, that's kind of how it was. I remember when the first Atlas came out. Um, it was it was fine. It's bigger than some of the other models in that class, so a little bit more seat room, but um, it's wouldn't say boring. It's just doesn't stand out ahead of, there's nothing I can think of that the Atlas is the one for that, that it's not the sporty one. It's not I don't know.
There's just so many. There's such competition in this segment. Like there's so many. And I guess putting the Atlas in there, gives them that vehicle so that they fill it that niche for people who are Volkswagen loyalists. But I don't know that it would, I don't know, would this draw me in if I wasn't just already a hardcore Volkswagen fan or just wanted to move up from my boring Jetta to something else or my tiny little, tiny little car to something bigger and family friendly? I don't know I don't know that it would. Do you think, I mean, who do you think the person is that's going to get this?
Probably the same people who buy the current Atlas. People who like VWs but want something bigger. I think the front end is definitely more interesting looking than before.
Yeah.
Especially
It's
those headlights. Those
yeah,
The
headlights are
lights are
cool.
the
fabulous. The lights
headlights and
really
kind
do
of the
look
split
good.
grill. You got a couple of different sections of body color, separated by grill around it. Um, and the interior, looking at the interior, it does still have the same infotainment setup that you find on like the ID4 and the ID Buzz, where it's got the touch sliders across the bottom of the screen, which
Ugh.
for temperature and volume, which is not great. Obviously, this one was too far along before Thomas Schaefer, the CEO of Volkswagen, decided no, we got to have buttons and switches from now on. Um, one interesting detail
Oops.
I did notice from looking at the photo of the interior that I hadn't noticed before. It's got there's two circular pads on the center console there, in the bin there. It's got two wireless magnetic wireless charging pads. They're Qi 2 charging pads for your phone.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you have an iPhone or if you've got any other phone that's got either built-in magnets like the current Google Pixel or you've got a magnetic case, you can just pop it on there and it'll charge and it's not going to fall off for you. So that's nice. So far Nissan is the first one that's introduced those in cars, on the Murano and I think on the Rogue. They've got those and on the Pathfinder refresh.
Pathfinder,
Um,
yeah.
but now VW's got them on this new Atlas as well. So hopefully we'll start seeing those on other new vehicles as they start coming to market in the next year or so. Um, Powertrain wise, the only they're launching with just another variant of the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. This one producing 282 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque. So it's 13 more horsepower than the old Atlas. And, I actually like driving the Atlas. Again, like you said, it was not real exciting to look at, but it was really nice to drive. We had one for Operation Frodo in December, and I spent a day driving it with some rescue dogs, and it was actually one of the best cars we had for that trip in terms of driving long distances on the highway. Very comfortable, very smooth, good at good wind resistance. We had crosswinds, so it was nice to drive. Um, and let's see what else. They have a 1 year. It comes with a 1 year trial subscription of premium speech. Volkswagen's generative AI enabled voice assistant helps with natural language tasks. Oh boy, will that be
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, I'm already thinking of trying to find the off switch.
They they have promised that they're going to add a hybrid as a mid-cycle refresh for this Atlas. So that's probably 2-3 years away. Unfortunately, it'd be nice to have one at launch, but better late than never, I guess.
True.
All right, and then there was another brand new three-row SUV that was launched, and that was the Subaru Getaway. Perry, I think you've probably seen more of this thing than either of us have.
Yeah, I went and spent a day crawling through it and taking pictures of it, and it's interesting because this is it's on the same platform as the Toyota Highlander that just recently was introduced, which is also all electric. In fact, pretty much every Subaru electric has a Toyota twin. Uh, but interestingly, this one has more power than its Toyota uh, partner. So I think the Toyota is what, 370? No,
No,
340.
338 for the all-wheel drive and 221 for the front-wheel drive.
Where the Subaru is going to come standard with a dual motor 420 horsepower system. So they're saying, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, which, for a three-row SUV, electric or not, is still not bad. But I like the style of it. I think it doesn't have all the cladding of all of their other cars, um, which gives it a bit of a cleaner look. It still has the whole Toyota system inside, but it's instead of the same dashboard that's in the Trail Seeker, in the Uncharted, and in Solterra, where you have to look above the steering wheel to see the gauges. This one is a more normal setup. So it has the newer system where it's got a digital display, but it's you look at it through the steering wheel like a normal car. And it has the big touchscreen display, which is a nice improvement over the previous one as well, which is introduced. It's a Toyota system, but it's on the new Toyota Highlander as well. Um, does get the dual phone chargers. It's got, I think, comes standard with 6 passenger, but you have optional 7 passenger seating. Um, I got in the third row, and it's a little short on legroom, but width-wise, it actually is pretty comfortable. And so, if you can convince the people sitting in front of you to slide their seats forward, you actually have a decent amount of space back there. Um, so I think, it's a little bit bigger than the Ascent, interior and exterior. It doesn't sound like the Ascent is going anywhere, at least in the near future. It's still, but who knows? I was concerned that they were going to come out with this, call it the Ascent, and say goodbye to the Ascent, which that
Oh
apparently is
no.
not going to be the case. Um, so yeah, it's supposed to be in showrooms later this year, and later on they will have a more standard battery, which will be obviously less expensive with a lower range. I think they're saying for this one, um, the range they're expecting they're just saying more than 300 miles. Um, and charging, it's still max of 150 kilowatts, so 10 to 80% in about a half hour.
I had a chance to look at this one too. I went to the preview out in California. I got to see it. Had a chance to sort of check it out, crawl all over it, and I agree with you, Perry, about space and stuff. I think it's a good vehicle. I wonder how well an EV is gonna. I just don't know. You just don't know with EVs right now. There's such a
True.
giant question mark in terms of the reception, regardless of how good they are, you know, how good or bad the range, the price, whatever. People are so skittish about EVs these days.
It's also interesting that Subaru is, I wouldn't say flooding the market, but in the last 12
Yeah.
months, this is the third new EV that they're going to come out with,
Right?
which is really interesting as every other manufacturer, most other manufacturers seem to be pulling back from EVs altogether. And so it will be interesting to see. I mean, and granted, they don't compete against each other. They do compete against Toyota.
Right.
And Toyota is always going to win that battle because Toyota's going to sell more of everything.
Yeah.
They have more, more showrooms, and it's just the way it is. But and this one will be built in Kentucky, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to be built in Georgetown, Kentucky, alongside the Toyota
The
Highlander
Highlander.
and whatever they call the Lexus version of this.
Ah, right. Still to come, I guess.
Still to come. Wait and see.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll probably see that in May when they do the drive for the ES.
Ah,
But
right.
yeah, but it's interesting. For a company like Toyota that was so kind of anti-EV, by the end of this year, they will have 7 EVs in their lineup,
Wow.
and
And they've
Subaru will
come
have
really
4.
quickly.
Yeah,
Like boom, yeah, one right after the other. It's like yeah. It feels like they should have done this a little sooner or not done it.
well,
I don't know.
actually, I think it's probably given what they had to start with, it's probably better that they didn't do it sooner. I mean, they launched the BZ4X and the Solterra. They were very underwhelming. They had terrible charging, mediocre range. They were kind of pricey, and they listened to the complaints. They went back and completely re-engineered everything, all the important stuff anyway, and made them a lot more efficient, a lot faster charging. They lowered the prices, and they're using that hardware set to build all these other vehicles. So you've got basically 2 different motors, a couple of different batteries that they're putting into everything from the BZ and Solterra to the Uncharted and CHR, the BZ Woodland and Trailseeker, now the Highlander and the Getaway, and then the Lexus ES is going to have the same kind of components in there, and the Lexus 3-row is going to have those components in there. So they're leveraging a lot of component sharing to keep their costs down, and I think that's a good thing. They rather than rush them out when they had something that wasn't great to begin with, they waited, got it right first, and then rolled out all these other variations. And if you look at the sales numbers, especially the Q1 sales numbers, the sales for the BZ and the Solterra in the first quarter were up significantly over the first quarter of 2025.
Interesting.
And particularly in March, the March sales numbers were way up. Gee, I wonder what happened in March that could have caused EV sales to go up.
Curious.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing, though,
right when gas prices
Yeah.
went up, those EV sales
Yeah.
started climbing.
I think the most interesting thing is, though, that this all started, 3 years ago? I mean, the first Solterra was a 23. This is
Yeah.
only 26. I mean, this is a lot of advancement in a very short time, which is unusual
Yeah.
in this industry.
Yeah.
That I mean, Subaru has completely changed their outlook. Ooh, I wonder if that sounds like a good name for a Subaru.
Well, they got
The
Outback.
Subaru Outlook.
They got Outback. My daughter always wanted to know why that wasn't called the Outfront.
Valid complaint.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've seen 2 Outbacks in my neighborhood in the past week, the new ones.
The new one. I'm
Yeah.
starting to see them around. Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah.
It is funny to look at the old one, and the old one looks really old now compared to the new one, and it's not been gone that long.
Not really that
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, if you like the look of the old one, you might want to check out the Trailseeker rather than the Outback.
exactly. Yeah. Or you might
It's
want to
really
check out
much
the Trailseeker
more-
anyway. I really like that one. I think
Yeah.
of all of Subaru's EVs that I've driven so far, that's my favorite, but that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. All right. There's also one other Kia vehicle from the auto show that we neglected to talk about, which is the PV5, which they showed as a taxi in partnership with Brawnability. So Kia first showed the PV5 and a bunch of other variants of it at CES in 2024. Yeah, 2024. They showed them, and those so this is sort of a mid-size van that they had on display there, the PV5, and so smaller than something like a Transit, bigger than like the old Transit Connect or the old ProMaster City, relatively tall, and they partnered with Brawnability. Brawnability is one of the biggest providers of wheelchair accessible vehicles in the U.S. And so they do modifications on a wide range of different vehicles. So you can buy Chrysler Pacificas, Toyota Siennas. There's a bunch of different SUVs that they do. I can't remember if they do the Odyssey or not, but there's a bunch of different vehicles that they sell with wheelchair accessibility kits. And one of the things you'll notice whenever whether it's Brawnability or one of the competitors, typically whenever you see a van that's got a wheelchair kit on there, it's usually been jacked up. So suspension's been lifted up so that they can get the access in there for the wheelchairs, with a reasonable ramp height and other things. But they worked very closely with Kia on integrating into the PV5. And I talked with somebody from Brawnability about what they did with this thing. And because the PV5 is a skateboard chassis with, the battery comes up to the rear axle, and then there's independent rear suspension. There's nothing really between the rear wheels. They were able to basically cut down the floor in between the rear suspension on either side. And they didn't have to really do anything to the suspension at all. So from the outside, it looks like a perfectly standard PV5, but it's got a nice, reasonable ramp angle for the wheelchairs. And one of the things he was explaining about a lot of these wheelchair conversions is the anchor kits for the chair. It's usually separate cables that, a lot of times they'll get lost or misplaced. And, then, when a driver is going to pick up somebody in a wheelchair, they don't always have all the cables. So they can't strap the chair down. And so then they got to call another car. This one, they've designed the system with integrated cables or integrated anchors in there for the chair, so that they're always there. They're not rattling around. And it's a lot easier to use, a lot easier for the driver to get the chair hooked in there. So you roll the chair up into the back, hook it down so it doesn't move around, and then the ramp folds up in the back. When there's a chair in there, the ramp folds up in the back. When there's no chair in there, the ramp can actually just slide right up on top of the part of the ramp that extends out, just slides up on top of the floor. And so you still have a flat floor. So if the car is picking up somebody else who's not in a wheelchair, you still have all that cargo area back there. And they've got this one wrapped like a New York City taxi. They're talking to the Taxi and Limousine Commission about getting these things approved for use as taxis. They haven't got that yet, but I think this would be a good addition to the fleet in New York and other cities, where you need wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Yeah, I
It's a
think
cool setup. Yeah.
it's neat, and to make it a little bit more easily accessible for people in wheelchairs too, like you said, not having to do any kind of upfitting to make it work. It looked really neat. I think it's a great idea. We'll see. They seem very positive about getting it approved, so I think it really is hopefully just a matter of time.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Stellantis. They have a plant in Brampton, Ontario, which is just west of Toronto, which is where they used to build the Charger and Challenger and Chrysler 300. And then before that, they actually built Jeeps there for a long time. And the plant was originally slated to produce the next generation Jeep Compass. Well, last spring, after somebody imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, Stellantis paused their retooling efforts at the factory and decided not to build the Compass there. They later on changed their plans and decided to build the Compass in Illinois instead. But they've got this empty plant and they've been trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, now that Canada has a trade deal with China that's going to allow Chinese vehicles to come into the Canadian market, Chinese EVs to come into the Canadian market, and they're also encouraging Chinese vehicles to be built in Canada. Stellantis is now in talks to convert that assembly plant over to building vehicles from Leap Motor, which is a partner that they own an equity stake in Leap Motor, and they're talking to the Canadian and Ontario governments about building Leap Motor EVs in that plant, which could be interesting. I have a feeling that when these Chinese EVs come into the Canadian market this year, they're probably going to sell pretty well. But now we're starting to get a lot of noise from Washington. The Canadian ambassador or the U.S. ambassador to Canada already declared last week that Chinese vehicles are not going to be allowed to cross the border from Canada. So, Canadians who buy a Chinese vehicle, if they want to visit the U.S., they are not going to be allowed to drive those vehicles across the border. Senator Bernie Moreno has introduced a bill to ban any Chinese vehicle, both to ban vehicles from being driven in, from being imported, or even from being built in the U.S., which is kind of nuts. And a big part of one of the reasons they keep giving for trying to ban Chinese vehicles is, this nonsense security reason. They're saying, if we get these Chinese vehicles in the U.S., they've all got these cameras on them. You know what else has cameras on them? Every other vehicle
Every
that
other
you
car.
can buy right now.
Not to mention your phone and everything else that you carry around.
and they're going to be sending all this data, doing all this spying and sending data back to China. It's like they don't need to import vehicles or build them here or anything else to do that. They could just go out and buy any vehicle that's already on sale here and slap some cameras in it, and if they want to spy, they can just drive around and capture whatever they want. It's a ridiculous argument. But what do you think about the idea of Stellantis building Leap Motor EVs in Canada?
I think it's a good move for them. I mean, if they have a way to use a factory that's being unused and to help their struggling bottom line,
Yeah.
I think they should do that.
No, I think it does make sense. I mean, why waste the space? And if there's going to be demand for them, I have no idea pricing wise, but it would seem that they would be a less expensive way of getting into an EV. A
couple of years ago when Stellantis had their last investor day here, Carlos Tavares, the then CEO, talked a lot about Leap Motor and said, that this was a pathway for them to get much more affordable EVs into the market, not just here, but in Europe as well. I would guess that these are going to be fairly inexpensive vehicles. Not as cheap as they are in China, obviously, but apparently fairly inexpensive. Although according to the story from Electrek, the proposal from Stellantis has already drawn fierce opposition from Ontario Premier Doug Ford and the Unifor Union, which represents about 3,000 laid-off workers at the plant. I can't understand why they would be so upset about it. If Stellantis wants to build something there,
why would they
they're
care
gonna be
what it is?
recalling workers.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to protest it, but
Yeah.
there must be something else there as well.
Yeah, but that could be interesting.
Could be good.
All right, the last story I want to touch on for today is one that actually just popped up in the New York Times today. It's about how a family of three lives on $25,000 a year in Corona and Queens. So this is in New York City, and it's an immigrant family, and the the husband he's driving for Uber and Lyft, and he is he's clearing about $25,000 a year after expenses, which to live in New York, or even in Queens,
To live anywhere.
seems
Seriously.
is insane. But reading through the story, the thing that really jumped out at me is that he's renting a Toyota RAV4 hybrid to use to drive. And I know, Uber and Lyft and some other companies do these rentals of relatively newer vehicles to drivers that want to use them for rideshare, or, for deliveries or whatever else. They can use them for DoorDash or things like that. And this guy is paying $2,400 a month to rent a RAV4.
And he has
Jeez.
another $450 in car insurance on there.
Yeah,
So that's
so almost-
$2,850 that he's spending
Almost
just
$3,000
to
a
have,
month.
That
just
is
for
Which
the
is
car.
almost more than he's spending to live.
right.
Well, actually, it
This
is
is-
more than he's
It
spending.
is
to
because
live.
they says they
Yeah,
split
it's
the rent with people with somebody. So that is more that I feel like there should be a better way to do that than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he's getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's like one of these rent to own deals, except that he's never actually going to own this vehicle.
No.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of pathway for for people to if they want to do this work, and reading the article, explains why he's doing this, instead of some other job, because he's got a 7-month-old child. His wife just had a baby last year, and he likes having the flexibility, so he can go with them to doctor's appointments and things like that. And so that's fair, but if you're gonna do this kind of work, there needs to be some other pathway to getting a reasonable vehicle, a reasonably priced vehicle to use, because $2,400 a month to rent a RAV4.
I mean,
Even if you took an
if he could-
insanely long loan, you wouldn't be paying anywhere near that much to buy one.
I was going to say, if he doesn't rent it for, 4 months, 3 months, he could buy a reasonable used car.
Seriously.
I mean,
Yeah.
for 7,500 to 10 grand. I mean, no, it's not going to be anything great, but you can, there's got to be something that is still drivable, still usable, that he could use for. I mean, I don't know what their qualifications are, but yeah, it would seem that's there's no way you can win.
No.
You're never going to get yourself out of that.
No, that's amazing to me. Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
It is really unfortunate, and that's something we should maybe take a look at, is how can we provide people that are working in the gig economy as drivers, a way to make a reasonable living doing this stuff, and this certainly isn't it.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, it is hard to make a living driving a car if you don't have one.
That's true.
I mean, that's I'm not saying that what they're doing is right, but he's chosen a profession that requires a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or chosen to. I mean, I don't know what other possibilities there are, and granted, there's certain benefits to having the flexibility of an Uber driver, but that's kind of that's why it works for so many people, is they use what they already have, and then it's just money on top.
Right.
Where he's taken pretty much all the money he's making and just putting it back in the car, which just doesn't make any sense.
It says he clears $25,000 a year and he's spending like 30 on the car. So he's He's spending a lot on that car. I
Yeah.
don't get it. I'm
So
confused
I mean,
by that.
you know, he's technically earning about 55,000 a year, but 30,000 of that is just going into that vehicle. And you know, I know that if you don't have credit, and you can't get a loan, or you can't get a reasonable loan, buying a used car, you could end up, you end up paying insanely high interest rates, on a used car loan. But even at that, you should be able to get something like, you know, not too old RAV4 or CRV or something, for certainly for a lot less than $2,400 a month.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
maybe
Yeah.
outrageous.
maybe $1,000 a month. And if you did $1,000 a month, on a, say you could find a used RAV4 for 25 grand, and you could, buy that for, even $1,000 a month loan, even if you had like a 20% interest rate, that,
You're still better off.
you're
You're
still
still,
far better
yeah,
off.
yeah.
There's at least a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel on that, where
Yeah.
this one,
At least at some point you're actually going to own it.
You're gonna own it. It's gonna be yours. You're
Exactly.
not just renting it.
right? It's an
indefinitely.
investment as opposed to what
Yeah.
this is, which is throwing away money, unfortunately.
It is.
Yeah. All right. There's a couple other stories I've got on here, but I'm going to save those for next week because there's some stuff with Mercedes-Benz. I know Robbie went to visit Mercedes last week.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna save those for next week when he's back, hopefully.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
And we do have 2 interviews that we recorded, and we've got more, but I will save a couple for next week as well. Nicole did several interviews last week in New York, and we did one together. We actually did a couple interviews last week together.
We did.
The first one is with Craig Piersma. Craig is the vice president of marketing and communications for a company called Gentex, and we've talked, recently about the camera mirror systems, like when we talked about the Polestar 4, and we speculated about what could be done to make those more usable for drivers, especially if you have difficulty refocusing, going from the mirror to the focusing on the outside world. And so Craig had some very interesting information to share with us on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run that here, and then we'll be right back after that, and we'll introduce the next interview. So that's it. 17. All right, and the second interview we've got for today, it was Nicole and I sat down with Matt McAleer, who is the CEO of both the Dodge and Chrysler brands now. We talked about Matt a couple weeks ago when we mentioned that Chris Fuel was leaving Chrysler. Matt is now running both of those brands. And Nicole and I sat down with him at the New York show last week to get some thoughts on what's going on with those 2 brands. And we'll run that here. And actually, before we run that, let's go ahead and say goodbye. And we'll talk to you next time. And just keep listening to the interview with Matt. Bye.